Hello again. My name is John, the Millennial Therapist, and welcome to my channel, where I discuss all things related to therapy and human psychology. Remember that all my videos are for entertainment and educational purposes only. If you are looking for a personal therapist, YouTube is not the place. Now, before I get started here, I want to be clear about the topic of this particular video. Everyone experiences difficult or challenging relationships from time to time, and anyone who has lived long enough has parted ways with a few friends or even family due to irreconcilable differences. However, that is not what I will be referring to in this video. Today, I'm going to be exploring very generally the personality traits and behaviors that I have noticed commonly lead to consistent, regular relationship collapse, or very uncomfortable relationship dynamics that regularly result in resentment and feeling very uncomfortable. All that having been said, let's dive in. Broadly speaking, and I mean very broadly here, there are two categories of people or two buckets of personality traits that make it either impossible to sustain relationships or result in highly imbalanced or invidious interpersonal dynamics. The first group I'm going to refer to as emotionally aggressive, and the second as emotionally passive. Note that these are not official clinical terms, merely a way of describing the suite of traits I will soon discuss. So, how do you know you or another person struggles in relationships? That's pretty easy, actually. Look at the history. If a person is an adult and across her family, social, and occupational life, she struggles to maintain relationships, there is likely something wrong. Or more to the point, something she is doing in particular that makes the relationships difficult or impossible to sustain. The fifth edition, the current edition of the Diagnostic Manual, recognizes 10 official personality traits split into three different clusters. Cluster B is the one associated with emotionally intense, dramatic, and erratic people. Indeed, many therapists will even use this term unofficially and behind closed doors to describe difficult individuals. This is because the personality disorders in this cluster feature traits which are both abrasive and often really draining. Emotionally aggressive individuals frequently possess many of these traits, sharing many features coincident with borderline personality disorder or the many manifestations of narcissistic personality disorder. Such individuals are highly interpersonally sensitive, code word for easily offended, exhibit anxious attachment behaviors, struggle with emotional regulation and affective control. They're quick to anger or impatient and engage in generally aggressive, threatening, or manipulative behaviors. Now, to be clear, the spectrum for these traits is wide, and most people have experienced moments in their lives in which such traits have periodically manifested, usually during youth or a time of particular duress. But I'm referring to individuals who display this pattern of cognitive behavior regularly, early and often. Emotionally aggressive people can appear either very manipulative or very immature. They are often paranoid and assume malice where there is none. Many mishaps are interpreted as conspiracy. And when they do not get what they want, they tend to split or engage in all or nothing thinking regarding the character of others. In other words, when they like you, you're a saint. And when they're displeased with you, you're evil. When emotionally aggressive people are romantically involved, or when they are losing control of a very important relationship, they commonly resort to deliberately attention-demanding behaviors, such as threats. One reason for this is that emotionally aggressive people struggle to tolerate negative emotions and thoughts, leading to rapid loss of behavioral control. The intensity of their emotions is often so psychologically distressing, they irrationally lash out. At core, this can be due to genetics, trauma, upbringing, or all three. It should be obvious by now why emotionally aggressive people fail in relationships. Their behavior drives others away. Typically, even early in adulthood, beyond immediate family, the only relationships left are commonly either highly passive or superficial. Official diagnosis or not, such individuals require rigorous therapeutic support to improve the core issue, emotional dysregulation. Beyond that, the people in their lives need to be strong boundary setters, redirecting bad behavior with clarity and speed. If there are no consequences, then there is no reason to change. Let's explore the second group, psychopathology. The problem here is in some ways the opposite, though there are many similarities as well. Emotionally passive people tend not to suffer from as much relationship loss as the aggressive type. However, their relationships are often superficial, very unsatisfying, or lacking in reciprocity, leading to a high degree of discomfort and resentment. Such individuals are frequently avoidant, exhibit low self esteem, and endorse core beliefs of either worthlessness or helplessness. I describe them as passive because they tend to tolerate a lot of bad behavior. This is because they are fundamentally fearful of confrontation and are conflict avoidant, believing that conflict will terminate the relationship. As a result, it must be avoided at all costs, even if that means accepting abuse. When emotionally passive people do lose a relationship, it is commonly due to lack of follow up. Due to low self worth, these individuals will often assume that inconsistent communication is a deliberate attempt to ghost them. Because they struggle with self assertion, they are also less likely to initiate contact after lengthy breaks or when a conflict has occurred. More commonly, however, emotionally passive people maintain their relationships to some degree, but experience them with dissatisfaction and resentment because of their inability to set boundaries, communicate directly, and functionally resolve conflict. At times, they will tolerate even wildly abusive behavior because at some level they believe they deserve it or cannot hope for anything better. This group too benefits from intensive therapy. But unlike the former group, instead of learning to respect the boundaries of others, emotionally passive people must learn how to set them without overreacting to the fear that it will end the relationship. Any healthy relationship, can and will survive routine conflict. While these two categories of traits appear very different at one level, at another, they're the same. Both are maladaptive or dysfunctional responses to conflict and emotional distress. Both are driven by irrational fears and perceived threats. Both indicate a distorted sense of self as it relates to others. And finally, both are ultimately reactions to anticipated abandonment. If you or a loved one struggles globally, okay, in relationships, seek an experienced therapist. It can get better. Anyone who wants to can improve. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out my other videos. Goodbye.